Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Mosaic Podcast. Today, I think, is going to be just delightful. I have the opportunity to sit for a longer time than I normally sit with someone that I've never met before, and I'm not even sure how we came upon each other. I'm sure that it was me reaching out to her because uh, it wasn't that she was eager to come on the podcast, not that she wasn't eager. She's incredibly sensitive and feels a lot of things. And this is a woman that normally is in the background helping other people up and lifting other people, taking the brilliance of other people and shining it into the world for them. And one of the things that I love sometimes when I meet people that have an equal brilliance of their own to the brilliance of the people that they make look brilliant is to turn the curtain around, to open up the curtain from behind and allow the stage to turn around so the brilliant people that she works with go to the back of the room and that the brilliance of who she is comes to the front. It's been my honor and pleasure to talk with her a little bit. And I want to ask you as we walk in to just hold the space for her. Because being in front, answering questions is not her normal place. She's normally behind asking questions. And so, what I felt in the conversation we had is there's just a sensitive, beautiful person inside here that so wants to be. I'm going to just say it, whether it might not be the correct thing, but I'm just going to say it. It's time for her to shine. It's really time for her to shine in her own right. And one of the beautiful things about this podcast is I love finding people at that pivotal point where a shift is about to happen. And I believe a shift is about to happen for her. Brilliant in mind, glorious in heart, kind in spirit. It's really time to allow ourselves to see each other the way others see each other. Sometimes in my book, The Mosaic, Mo walks into the mirror shop and the mirror maker sees him and says, "What does the mirror show you?" And Mo says all the stories that he normally sees when he looks in the mirror, of the stories he brings to the mirror. And she says, "I'm sorry, you didn't understand my question. I'm not asking for what you see in the mirror. I'm asking for what the mirror sees in you if you would just get rid of all your stories." What I would like for us to do is hold the space for Karina today to drop some of her stories about what she sees in the mirror and let the mirror show her who she is. Because I think she'll find that she is even more beautiful than she thinks, that she is even more knowledgeable than she knows. And she is knowledgeable. She's brilliant. She's doing incredible things, and we're going to talk about it. Let me stop talking and now go into her introduction, okay? Karina is the founder and president of Xkeys mag.com. She founded it in January of 2013, and it's about exquisite stories that started out featuring current and notable events, people, and places. But it didn't take long for her interests in technology to take hold. By the end of 2014, Karina decided to shift her focus onto future trends, moved by Silicon Valley's energy and its ecosystem of the big and bold startups, disrupting conventional business, their founders, their funders, many of whom have become household names globally, by making the impossible possible. Karina is passionate about bleeding edge technologies and innovations, realizing that they are the most powerful drivers of transformation and success, basically shaping all aspects of life, whether cultural, economic, political, sociological, medical, psychological, or physiological. An entrepreneurial technologist by training, she is also a consultant for startups and a bridge builder between the Philippines and Silicon Valley ecosystems. Karina, It's my honor to welcome you to the Mosaic Podcast. How are you?
Thank you for the very nice introduction. I'm very well. How are you, Danny?
I am so well, partly because we had just such a beautiful time together, just being really open and sharing. And what I always love is when I meet people who feel like they might not be able to share that much. And then they just open up to me, and I'm just a completely imperfect stranger. And we're sitting talking about very important things. And for you, one of the things that you said to me is how important sort of deeper conversations are to you, and how beautiful those one-on-one moments are for you. And so I want you to just imagine it's just you and me right here. Forget about who else is going to be listening. It's just
Uh,
you and me continuing our conversation like we did before. Okay? Just to give some context as to where you came into life. What did your parents do?
oh, my father was a civil engineer, and when he retired from working in his day job, he entered into his passion of building custom homes,
Wow.
and he bought some parcel land in I don't know if you're familiar with the Bay Area, and that's um, was the reason for our migration to the United States.
Wow.
Um, in Hillsborough, if you're familiar,
Beautiful. Oh God, yeah, one of the most exclusive areas in the country.
we did not know that then because we were living in the Philippines. But apparently, my dad had good foresight when it comes to real estate, and so he developed some properties there. And unfortunately, he died at a very young age, just at 54.
Wow.
So in one of the, and it so happened that that was a very bad time because the United States was suffering from high interest rates, so that the custom built homes, the higher end homes, were not selling. So we ended up, our family ended up moving into one of the homes that um, wouldn't sell. So we lived, so because the family lived there, that's where I lived here initially coming to the United States. And in the area is where I continued my undergrad in a little town bedroom community called Belmont, College of Notre Dame.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where I graduated for my undergrad.
I lived in Palo Alto for a very short period of time. I think I was the only. I lived there during during the tech explosion of before, and I was probably the only person that wasn't in tech then. I was in publishing,
Beautiful town.
so it was. I know the area very well. I know Belmont. I know Hillsborough. Beautiful, 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 beautiful area. Hillsborough is a beautiful area. So
Yeah,
did your family manage to come out of that okay?
and
Because
yeah, well, yes, we hung on to the properties because we lived in it. So
yeah,
until we all went our separate ways because my brothers got married and myself. But I'm very proud of my father, who's a very good investor, and mother as well. But my mom, very equally proud of her. She is behind me.
there she is.
She lived to a fuller life. She passed away a few years ago.
I'm sorry.
But she was a sorority sweetheart. She was the sorry, she was a fraternity sweetheart.
Right, right.
She, she was one of two Fulbright scholars during her
Wow,
time to
wow,
Syracuse University. And
wow.
during that time, one of two in the country that got the scholarship. And she, to come to the United States for the first time, she had to ride 1 month in a boat, third class, I
Wow.
believe. Well, scholarship to Syracuse, and for her master's in education, I
So this
believe.
was from the Philippines to Syracuse. That was the
Correct.
journey. Wow.
And then after that, her undergrad was in nursing, but because of her graduate studies in Syracuse, and I believe she did some more travels. to Europe, and which explains the painting behind me, which was one of her treks before she went back to settle in the Philippines. Um, she, in her early days, she worked for the quarantine department, which
Wow.
sounds now, because what would she do in these days of
Right.
quarantining? The importance. Probably during that time there was TB. I don't know what was the communicable disease that quarantine was such a big thing during that time. But anyway, fast forward to her very bright career, she was the top nurse. She was the administrative nurse, third from the Department of Health head, which
Wow.
is secretary.
Wow.
And it's by appointment, and it was Ferdinand Marcos, who was the
Wow.
president at that time.
Wow.
She wanted him to appoint her to, because it's by appointment,
Yes.
take over the Secretary of Health position. I don't know if I should be saying this, but anyway, anecdotal. Um, but
So your family was very respected in the Philippines because if I'm not mistaken, Philippines can have either a very well-to-do or a very desolate population. So your family was a part of the well-respected people of the Philippines.
well, it would be nice to think that yes, it's a triangle, it's a pyramid when it comes to the economic scale. So only the few and the top really get to mingle and circulate amongst each other. We tend to know each other because it's a small
Yes.
community. I think since Marco's time, it has opened up, just like China has opened up. But it's sadly, well, anyway, it's cyclical, isn't it? So it
Yes.
opens up, opens again, and that's just the way it is.
So all of that brought you here for whatever reason, because your dad now invested and was building properties. So as you were growing up, which of the two, even though you obviously loved and respected both of them, which of the two parents did you look to for your approval the most?
Well, I was 17 when my father passed away.
Okay.
So really, actually, um, because I had my mom much longer, for a
Yeah.
much longer time,
Yeah.
and um, I, my father was very busy with his career, and I, I wish I had known him more.
Yes.
So to answer your question, perhaps by default, just because I spent longer time with my mom, then I would say it would be my mom. But I have very fond memories of my father and highly respect him. And I have a picture of him somewhere there too.
I completely know the feeling because as I was telling you before, and when we were just getting to know each other, I lost my dad when I was 13,
Oh,
and my mom when I was 15. So, and I was like a mini me to my dad before mini me's were even around. We would go to the shore and walk the boardwalk, and I would hold his ring finger with my hand, and I was like a 3 foot version of a 6 foot version, and the way we walked, the way we looked, the way our faces were, the way our bodies shaped, the way we waddled in the same sort of way, people would just stop everything they were doing and just take pictures of us because they thought like, who are these guys? They're just exactly the same in a smaller body. So I know that sense of I wish I had known my dad longer. What did you think you were going to do when you were a kid? You know how every kid grows up and says, "I'm going to be an astronaut or a baseball player or a brain surgeon." What did you think you were going to do?
I really don't remember. I wish. Okay, so to answer that question is in the Philippines. It gets very hot and humid.
Yes.
I don't know if you've been there, but a, favorite places to go to hang out in comparison to here would be the open air and the parks, but not so much there. There, it's the hotels
Yes.
and the malls because they're air conditioned,
Yes.
and they're not dusty, and you're saved from the humidity and the pollution from the dust outside.
Yes. Yes.
So because of that exposure, what was grand are the grand hotels. So I know it sounds silly, but I just want to
No.
work in an air conditioned place, such as a beautiful place, like the most beautiful hotel. But that, so I know it's really silly. Come to think of it now that I'm opened up to the wider spectrum of
Yeah. No, it's not silly at all because they're places of comfort that we go to all along our life, right? And in a place where it's humid and pollution and hard, sometimes hard to breathe because the air is stifling. To be in a beautiful hotel where it's cool and relaxed, and it's almost a sign of a certain type of well-being, as well as just being comfortable and being able to breathe. Um, so you were in the Philippines then. You were born in the Philippines?
I was born and raised there until I moved here for college, for part
Wow.
of college because of the death of my father, basically.
So talk to me about that pivot point of going from a place in the Philippines, even a well-respected place in the Philippines, to ending up in the Bay Area. Is that where
Yeah,
you ended up, Bay Area?
yes, and I'm still here. Um, Leaving college in the Philippines, college is a very important time. It's so much, well, for me, it's the time when, I have guys who are classmates because I went to an all-girls school, right? It's not so much, it's just more open. You get to meet, all these characters from a bigger pool of people.
Yes.
So, it was just more fun. So leaving that behind was very hard for me, and I didn't think that I would want to stay here permanently.
Yes.
That this here was only until we settled the businesses that my father left unfinished, and then moved back home to the Philippines. But I guess the longer that we stayed here, or the longer that I stayed here, then I developed my own set of friends here,
Yeah.
and then that was it. But my friends in the Philippines are still very much in touch with me and myself with them, and it's lifelong
Yeah.
friendship at this point.
I
That
love that.
family now, yeah.
And it seems like somehow you've managed to integrate the two locations by doing work together and figuring out how to bring the Philippines and Silicon Valley together, right?
Yes, because at our age now, they are now the heads of industries, and at one point the head of the country.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So what was were you always as intelligent as you are now? Like you're like in a conversation, you mix with a certain group of people that are really at the bleeding edge of technology. Was that always how you were in your life, or were there things that happened that were not that?
I was not an A student. My
You were
daughters
not.
are, but I was not. It 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 didn't come easy to me, but um, I don't know. Maybe it's the teachers' fault.
Yeah.
um, it surprises me really to be in this wonderful set that I'm in right now. Um, that I'm accepted and I'm getting validation from them for my input. That
Yeah.
I'm uh, as that my thoughts are uh, also contributing to the knowledge that they all are yearning for and wanting to develop.
So I bet there are a lot of people listening that doesn't matter what country they're from or what nationality they are or what color their skin or where they've grown up that feel the same way, that they feel the sense of somehow a wonderment of how is it that this person here is so accepted and acknowledged by the people around them. What can you give any insight from your own personal life around what surprises you about that?
Very, very surprised. It never ceases to amaze. It being um, on uh, trying to be humble, but I never.
Right.
I'm always surprising myself
Yeah.
that, as we talked about earlier, that how am I in this seat? How am I here today? How am I speaking to this person who wants some of my time?
Yeah.
I feel very flattered oftentimes, and and shocked. And
So,
to answer your question, how? Well, it's really because probably the entry point was my studies in uh, in information systems, which was my concentration for my master's, and that led me into this special group of people that are actually the movers and shakers of the last couple of decades, transforming from little garage startups
yeah.
into global household names.
So time out for a minute.
Okay.
Um, I love, like, there's so many little pivot points along the way here that I love to capture, right? Because um, for those of you listening at home, and I'm going to say something, maybe it's true. I want you to correct me if I'm not summarizing what you're saying. Okay. So many times we second guess ourselves. And even as I listened to Karina, I've had the opportunity to talk to her for about an hour before this podcast, and we just had fun talking, right? But but after that conversation with her, I don't believe that it was her information technology education that opened up some doors for her. I believe it's who she is as a person, and then oh, also adding the information that she has and the ability to translate information for people who can't socialize themselves opened up some doors for her. But that isn't what opened up the doors. Who she is opened up the doors. But so often we think, and I want you to think at home, do you do this yourself? Do you think, if only this were to happen, or if it's only because this happened, because on my own it would have never happened on my own, it's only because this opportunity happened. But how true is that really? So I really want to just ask you to backpedal that a little bit. How is there any truth to what I'm saying? If not, just say, Danny, you're all wrong. And I don't want you to be humble and I don't want you to be proud. I just want you to be honest.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. Even and it applies to everybody.
Everybody.
And it's actually one of the things that when I also meet other people who have not been enlightened yet, and because that's the feeling. If there's one word that I would describe myself, is
Yes.
that somebody turned on the light,
Yeah.
literally enlightened. So that now all of a sudden I'm seeing all these different parts of the room that used to be dark
Yeah.
before. It's not that it's not there, but not seeing them me from that perspective, it's so easy to conclude that that part of the world does not exist, or you won't believe it.
And you're saying, and from what I'm understanding, it's standing in the same room as you're in. It's just the lights aren't on until the lights do come on. And so, like
It's a
this, it's amazing, right?
yes.
So this is the moment. If we give people nothing more than this moment, that I think would make this such a valuable podcast for people to listen to. Because how often are we standing in a whirlpool of understanding. How often are we have does every opportunity exist that we could ever want right in front of us, but we just don't have the light on to see it? How did it happen for you that you met somebody who turned that light on, or did you turn a light on also that invited somebody to turn more lights on for you?
I think um, my mom could have easily been the mayor of some city
Yeah,
because it's her innate quality to just talk to anybody and everybody.
yeah,
Literally, she'll and to the end of her days, she was cooking up because growing up, five siblings, and we always had parties, huge parties at home,
right.
and she loved to cook, and that's and get-togethers, and whether it's family or friends. When she scaled down because she, emptying, she was living by herself. She refused to live with any of the children, any of my siblings. She wanted to live in her own little condo, but she wanted to be in a downtown area in Metro Manila, so that once she steps down, she's very independent, that she's at
Yeah,
the shopping center, walking around and socializing, having a donut, a coffee, lunch
totally.
at the restaurant, and then come back to nap and go out again to. So in other words, I guess I got that from her. To the end of her days, she was cooking food for the security guards, for the store managers, the retail people that she'd met,
Yeah,
that have become her everyday family, the people that served her donuts or you
yeah.
know whatever she ate for lunch, because these are her everyday people. She cooked for them. So
So can I pause for a minute? It
yeah.
that was not in America. That was back in the Philippines, or was right?
Yes.
So is it normal within the Philippine culture? Like, I know it's normal to cook a lot of food. My daughter, I told you, my daughter's developmentally delayed, and she lives in a group home with a Filipino family, and there's food all over the place all the time. So I have some familiarity with it. But is it normal for a person of high standing, which your mom was, to cook food for the common people?
Well, she wasn't. Her father was a school teacher,
Okay,
so she also had very, very humble beginnings. So I guess she didn't really lose touch. So it's also in her nature growing up to be
gotcha.
that way. But um, I wouldn't say that. It's just she loved to cook,
Yeah,
and people loved her food. So there's that feedback cycle that flight,
yes,
that you get the encouragement, so she cooks more, she gets, and she gets validation from it, so she does more and more of that. So she just continued doing that, and to the end of her days. And so it's 3 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry. So
that's okay.
so I got that. So that is probably innate in me. And then the passion of more structure, perhaps from my father, who's an engineer.
Yeah,
And because for some reason, I'm just interested in technology. And
yeah,
I don't know, also probably because I live here in Silicon Valley, but a lot of my, friends from the Philippines who migrated here aren't into technology.
yeah.
So now, we kind of like, I formed my own set of uh, people that because of my interest
Yeah.
in
So
technology.
at what point did you shift? Because I know you were talking about with me before that along the way you weren't always doing technology. You were working in a cubicle, and not as a cubicle, as a fairly high level person, an assistant to the top person. But at what level did you finally did something shift in you where you said that's no longer for me? I could do this till the end of my days, but this is boring. This isn't enlightening to me. I want to get into technology.
So the transformation of startups really inspired me, and it was happening in my backyard.
Love it.
And the transformation was left and right mushrooming right here where I live. So I from my day job, my desk job, I stayed at home to raise my children, and then I got invited to be a guest writer for lifestyle magazine. So I got into writing via that, but I wasn't satisfied with the topics really that I was being sent to cover. But although I was being fed well and going to these nice fancy events, right?
Hotels with air conditioning, right? No, I'm teasing you.
Correct. No, now we're talking about Oscar de la Renta and
Right. I'm teasing.
Michelin star restaurants, right? But then, not to diminish anything, it's a preferential thing that I found more excitement, and probably also because I'm getting older, that the impact as far as changing the world and improving society is not going to happen so much in that old world. It's
Yeah.
happening in this new world.
Yeah.
If you just take a look at the the household names and the trajectory of the valuation, it, it's Facebook, it's Google, it's the FAMGA, right? Amazon,
Yes.
Microsoft, Google, Apple, and Facebook. So FAMGA
Yeah. Yeah.
acronym. So and that all happened within the last 20 years.
Yeah.
How can a David beat a Goliath? And it's in the stories of all these.
Right.
And what other the many other so Zoom, this technology that communicating through now, just happened in the last 2016,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
now it's a household name. The world is not going to function in these quarantine times uh,
Without it.
if not for these systems, such as majority of the population is going through Zoom, but of course there are other
Right.
Google has Google Meet and Cisco. But that so talk about impact. That's what's inspiring me.
And in your magazine, you also I just scanned a few things, and it's almost so bleeding edge. It's hard to even fathom. But in this time, I saw an article that you wrote about of in this time of facial recognition, where along with all these advances of technology, a lot of us have lost our privacy, completely lost our privacy, because people can see our faces, and we're very seen everywhere we go. And there are actually clothing companies that are making headgear or making body gear that actually interrupt the photography ability to be able to be seen for what your face really looks like, but people can still see your face through it. I mean, there's just amazing things that are going on.
Yes.
What excites you on the bleeding edge of where life is right now? What most excites you?
What most excites me is the possibilities, and specifically one area of possibilities that's exciting is longer life, longevity. So a lot of these things that we grew up with, these definitions, can be questioned and challenged. So the for the last several years, when I attended this conference by The Economist, which I covered as well, and I have a little write-up on that conference. The title was Aging and Longevity. Um, these researchers um, posed the question, and the challenge that aging should be classified as a disease.
Wow.
You might have heard that.
Yes.
But it's so if we redefine aging as a disease, then now we can study the preventative measures, right?
Yeah.
And so, so now we're talking about because so when you because then you have redefine it, then you can apply for grant money because it's now a
Yeah.
disease,
Yeah.
and then it will fuel more research, and then it'll.
And so what's happening in the world, which I'm hearing from you, which is maybe happening in some of the minds of people listening right now, is aging isn't just a natural condition that happens. There are people now in the bleeding edge of technology that are saying that the way we age is not at all the natural way to age, that it's actually a disease made up of different elements of what we're bringing into our bodies and the systems around us are bringing into our bodies, and that it's completely extendable. It's complete, and we can cure aging. That doesn't mean we cure death, but we can be here a lot longer. But
Mhm.
there are also, I mean, from my studies in the monastery, there are monks and in India that are living hundreds and hundreds of years because they're more in control of their breathing processes. They're more, the amount of breaths they take in the course of a day are less. So uh, one of the things that I love about the book The Mosaic is nothing is as it seems. It's one of the basic tenets. And what I love in talking with Karina is that science is catching up to that. Everything is catching up to the fact that basic assumptions that we make in the world of the way the world is just flat out aren't true. I mean, it's what we see, but that doesn't mean what we see is what is. There are people that are seeing other possibilities. So
That's
we
very.
were talking. You're talking. So aging is something that completely excites you. I know in our green room we were talking about some of the technologies around brain waves and brain technology.
Yes.
Uh,
So you've heard of artificial intelligence.
yes.
Uh,
Some people before it became popular, people thought I had artificial intelligence, not that it wasn't real intelligence. No, I'm teasing.
it's really it has been actually around us, with a lot of us not knowing that it is already here.
Yes.
So for example, in you're in a you're in a website, then all of a sudden this ad pops up.
Yep.
That just didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's because of this artificial intelligence algorithm that this website has followed on you with, and you did grant them permission
Yes.
when you downloaded the app, or by being um, a member of this, for example, Facebook. You
Yeah.
agree to the terms. It's all in this defined.
It's all in the piece of paper that you say I agree to
I
without
agree, and then
ever
so
reading it,
you can be a
right?
part of this, and then
Right.
all of a sudden, out of the blue, you'll be directed to, so AI could get us into trouble, not just
It is getting us into trouble.
it did, right? Admittedly, the last elections and so forth,
Yeah.
but there are also very good aspects of technology, of course, and the medical applications.
Totally. Totally.
And so we just have to find the balance, but that's just the way life is. I think if we recognize what the threats are and not just be blindly optimistic, we
Yeah.
have to, so that we are um, carefully walking towards that um, path
Yeah.
towards what would uh, be beneficial for humanity, because
Totally.
humanity can disappear.
You and I were talking earlier, and 30 years ago, I would have found it appalling, the idea of it. but now having a developmentally delayed daughter. Elon Musk is doing some research around something called a Neuralink, which most people have heard about. And it's probably only 5 to 10 years away from actually being able to be tested and installed. And what the Neuralink will do is they will cut into the skull, and they will be able to insert a little cylinder or something, whatever it is, and that will connect to the wires of the brain that are disconnected. So
Yeah.
having a developmentally delayed daughter, they're talking about paraplegics being able to walk. They're talking about blind people being able to see, because they will artificially connect those links that were disconnected and make people that were vegetables actually functioning. and
Yes.
i and I can't tell you just how 30 years ago my mind changed to, like, oh my god, you can't do that, that's like messing with our minds, to, oh my god, does that mean that if I live long enough I might actually be able to have a real conversation with my daughter?
Can I tell you something that'll
Please,
put you out?
please.
It's not 5 to 10 years away. It's already here.
Wow.
It's just a bulky piece that cannot be, um, uh, you know,
Inserted in yet.
no, it's not palatable
Yeah.
to be walking around in society with.
Yeah.
But the technology for so what Elon Musk wants is a small chip that would probably go here behind the ear,
Yeah.
right over here, the bone right here. Yeah, just like a cochlear implant goes through over there. They
Yeah.
remove part of the skull and they put the implant right over there. They're hidden if you so. So I think that I've seen a diagram that it's also going to be here,
Wow.
but it's already here. So people with cochlear implants, that's biotech.
Yeah.
But that impacts the hearing. So thinking is just, it's if you think about it, it's sort of the same thing as well, but it's
Yeah.
your thought.
Yeah.
But it's really very controversial because people will say it's the very last piece of us that is really ours, that
Yeah.
is off the grid.
Yeah.
So unless it's a medical necessity, which is always for new technologies, is always the entry point.
Yeah.
Medical technology and then military.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, you know, scooped up by the elites
Yeah.
who can afford technology that is not mass produced yet because they
Yeah.
want to be have an edge over the rest of civilization and to maintain their upper hand.
Karina, I love the perspective you bring to it, because look at what's happening right now, current in the world we're living in right now in America, with riots going on around social injustices and things that are happening. We believe that if we were able to treat human beings better, we would solve the problems. But the problems will just evolve into a new series of problems, which is a religious series based of problems of, this is the way you were created and how can you alter the brain? And there will be people on both sides, until we learn how to just come together and help each other to live better lives by doing what we need to do. Of course, we want to treat people equally. Of course, we want to do this. But when I think about, like, all of the people that might oppose that moment that I dreamed about since my daughter was born,
Hmm.
where I just said, give me 45 minutes where I can just listen to her, where I can just ask her a few questions and she can respond and tell me what she actually feels. And we tried on the computers and we tried on the things. But in talking to you beforehand, some of that technology might be here and some of it is actually, if it's not here, it's coming. And
Yes, it's
and
here.
and you can't, there will be people that say you can't do that, but there are people that say to women who don't want to have a baby that you can't abort your baby because we have control over your body. And wherever you stand on that issue is your place to stand. But there are going to be very private decisions that are coming. The technology will actually allow us to have things that we never could have before. And for anybody that's against technology, just take a look at this
Mm-hmm.
and think that in a very short period of time, 8 billion people will have an operating brain in their hands,
Mm-hmm.
because this will be able to think quicker than most brains can think.
Yeah.
And when we say, hey Siri, take me to, what are we doing? We're using AI.
Yes. Well, how many times have you lost your cell phone? And
Yeah,
what did you feel? How did you feel? You feel that an appendage is
totally.
part of you is missing and you can't function. So this is actually the analogy that has been used by Elon Musk, that we actually are um, already augmented by you know
AI.
by yeah, intelligence via our cell phone, but it's just not hardwired.
Yes.
So but technically, but we feel different once it's separated from us.
Yeah. The amazing thing the amazing thing that is really in what I see coming forward is human beings have always been the most intelligent species on the planet in their minds. In a very short period of time, that's no longer going to be the case. And not only are they going to be the second most intelligent species because AI is going to be more intelligent. We're not even talking about intergalactic intelligence, where other alien forms of intelligence, which we know are around us anyway, are going to be coming in. And so we're going to go from number one to number three. And if we don't do something, the beauty to me of Mosaic, which is not even what I write about in the book, but just the image of it, is if we try and oppose these things and fight them and try and hold them back and say they're not right, we're going to lose. We're going to lose that battle, because it is happening at exponential speeds that we can't even imagine. So the question is, how do we connect, all of us, human intelligence, artificial intelligence, intergalactic intelligence? How does it all play together in the same mosaic, so to speak?
Yes. So collective consciousness. So which you brought about, it's very true. AI really was just recently recognized um, that it has a lot of biases. You must have
Totally.
read somewhere, because the programmers themselves come from a niche part of society. They're usually a certain demographic. They're usually younger male, mostly of a certain, you
Right.
know, color, and in particular, Silicon Valley types,
Yeah.
right? And these are the algorithms that are running. The algorithms are the neural
Yes.
networks, right? Artificial neural networks. So we have the biologic neural network in our brain. So artificial neural network is what goes through in the AI, right? Who wrote those?
Yeah.
So what kind of thinking do they have, or what, the biases that they don't even see?
Yeah.
So we have to, so now, and because of recognizing that, because they are seeing odd results, why is this happening? Well, then they figured out that. So now, because of that revelation, they started saying, well, it should be a partnership between the humans and AI.
Yeah.
So Stanford has the human AI, so it's human-centered AI. So, and in the human AI, it's a collaboration not just by programmers who know only engineering and computer science, but they're getting a wider cross-disciplinary academics and people from all walks of life, so, to be a part of the table,
Yeah.
to have their voice in that algorithm. Because if they are not part of the input in this artificial neural network, then they will be the minority class again.
Yeah. Wow.
their concerns, their issues are not going to be uh, seen or covered in this neural network,
Yeah.
and then they will continue to be overlooked.
One of the people that I'm having introductory conversations with. We started a little bit. I had him on my podcast. His name is Louis Rosenberg. Louis Rosenberg went to Stanford and developed a lot of virtual reality type of stuff. But what he has developed now is fascinating. He took a look at the way species that were less intelligent than the human mind operate. He looked at the way fish swim in the swarm that they follow, in the school that they follow, and he looked at the way birds fly, and he saw the flock that they moved in. But it appears like there's one leading and the rest are following, but it's not at all that way. They operate in a collective mind where every bird in that flock moves in harmony with every other bird because they're sharing a collective mind space, and he calls that the swarm intelligence.
Hmm.
And
Beautiful.
so what he's done is he wanted to find ways that he could prove that human beings could think that way too. So he created a virtual room, and in that virtual room he put an octagon, and on the octagon every point had a choice that you had to make. So he wanted to find some way to prove with certainty if what he was doing was true or not. And so he went into sports gambling. And so he said, I want to find out if we can predict better than experts and better than society, who's going to win the Kentucky Derby. He was challenged by CBS to do it. And so they brought together 40 people that just, they weren't scientists, they weren't anything. They were just people that said they liked horse racing.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought them together in a virtual room. So they were all in their homes. On the computer screen was this octagon, and on the corners of the octagon were the horses running in the Kentucky Derby. And there was a puck in the center of it, and they said in a few moments we're going to activate your mouse, and we're going to make it so that your mouse will be a magnet to pull that puck towards the horse that you believe is going to win. But before that we do that, we want you to write on a piece of paper next to you that we can't see who's going to come in first, second, third, and fourth. Have you heard about this study?
No, I've not. Similar.
Okay, fascinating. So I'll send you the information on it.
Please do.
What happened is when everybody had made their choice, they said, okay, we're going to bring you into the room and we're going to ask you who's going to come in first, with the idea of, can we create a swarm intelligence among human beings who normally think in vertical reality, where there is a leader and their followers, and we're going to create it so that there can be no leader, that everybody has equal vote, and that everybody comes in and their magnets all have the same value. And you watched it for a little bit move back and forth until there was a point where collectively they decided on who was going to come in first, second, third, and fourth. Well, a $20 bet on their decision brought in an $11,000 reward. They beat 386 to 1 odds against them. They went back and they said, okay, it's probably because people knew who was going to win. They were probably researched it. On their individual cards, not one person chose the horse that came in first to come in first. Not one person chose the horse to come in second to come in second. Not one person out of the 40 chose the horse that came in third to come in third, and nobody chose the horse that came in fourth to come in fourth. So individually, they made none of the right decisions, but collectively, they made the decision that was the right decision. And so what he wants to showcase is how that can happen. And he showcased it in a number of different ways with predictive analysis. So I met up with him and I said, okay, well, that's great if you want to become rich, which is fun. Why not? Like, why not do that? But how could it work for social issues? Could it work if we said, if we brought together we're 8 billion people now. All of us have a voice. Every one of us want to be heard. So what would happen if we were able to collect the data from 8 billion people And we were able to say, what is it we want to work on? Do we want to solve homelessness? Do we want to solve hunger? Do we want to solve global warming? Do we want to solve sexual inequality? Do we want to solve racism? What are the causes that are most important to us to solve? Clean drinking water. What is it that we want to solve? And if we could then bring groups of people into these rooms, and more groups the better, and create the algorithm where they come together with solutions, we might just be able to find solutions to problems we've never had. And so what I'm trying to create, and maybe you and I can work together on this, I would love it, is I wanted to create the Mosaic Swarm. The Mosaic Swarm would be a membership of, the cost of membership would be $1 a month. And for most people, $1 a month is affordable. For many people, $1 a month is like $1 billion a month. But for some people, $1 could easily go. People might be willing to donate $10 a month to take care of their brothers and sisters who can't afford $1. And the idea would be that we would try and get a minority of 1 billion people. 7 billion people will think we're crazy, but I want to get a minority of 1 billion people to come together and say, let's see if we can create new solutions to a world whose problems should have been solved ages ago. What would we do? And for those 7 billion people who think we're crazy, it's okay. As the tide comes in, all the boats will rise. And we might not get it right the first time. We might make a few we might test it, and we might get close but not do it. But all you'll have lost is $1 a month. All I'll have lost is $1 a month. And I'm willing to invest $5, $10, $20 of my time and money to come up, because I know within a certain period of time we'll work out that algorithm, that we will find the right solutions to all of these problems. How cool would that be if we became a we the people society for the first time since the creation of the United States, where our Constitution says we the people?
Yeah, that is aspirational.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very dependent on the release of data and the channels of releasing those data. So, and there are a lot of people who want to control the data
Yeah. Yeah.
themselves. Who owns the data, and should we? There are a number of books that I can recommend.
I would love that.
Very, very enlightening again, and it will really open your mind as to what the possibilities are, but at the same time, how do we navigate? Where are the threats, and what are the possible scenarios? And
So for people listening right now, and they're, I can't imagine they're not completely intoxicated with some of the things you're saying. Do they have any avenue to you? Are you, is what you do you hook people up with people? Like, is there some way that if they have ideas like this crazy one that I just suggested to you, that they're like, how can they get in contact with you, and what is it that you would like to offer, or can you offer anything to them, or are you just working in a different dimension right now?
well, I would love to work with people in the same um, mindset, or just basically anybody who finds themselves resonating with um, bleeding edge technology, such as in AI or robotics or neurotech, and and but it's not just science or tech per se, because as I said, these foremost technologies that I just mentioned are going to be the most impactful. There are others, but these are the ones that are really going to be the ones that will be changing in the most rapid way and in the most dramatic, fashion.
Yes.
Retail is changing because of AI. It, it's
Yes.
it's all about AI. Elections,
Yeah.
right? Institutions, relationships, work. shopping,
Yeah.
uh, socializing, and so forth. And so now, even before where meditating was not considered non-scientific,
Yeah.
it's just for the the quacks, right? But now, because of the studying the because of our artificial intelligence, that it has to more and more become seamless with our carbon, right?
Yes.
With our the flesh and the biological neural network, is to understand what more and more how consciousness works, and that is the goal of AI,
Yeah.
to really mimic and become, to pass the Turing test.
Totally. So,
Recognizable that it is the mind of a machine thinking, that it's, so that is its goal, but it has its dangers, but it has its promises.
crossing the street has its dangers. Driving a car has its dangers. Having sex has its dangers. There's nothing that we do that we can't look at in another dimension that says has its dangers. But there is so much ahead that has possibilities, right?
Yes. What Elon Musk is doing, what if we said, at this point, we have no technology to react if there's an asteroid coming,
Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah.
right? There's no exit plan, there's no plan B.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk is developing the means, the possible means, although it might sound very far out at this point. Because how can our flesh survive the mercurial and the acidic and whatever chemical composition of Mars? It
Right.
won't. But there's really a grand plan to that.
Yeah.
And the grand plan is to upload our consciousness, or what we know, via chip, and digitize it, and then reform ourselves over on the other side.
Yeah.
So these are scenarios that are covered by certain books that I will recommend to you if you want. Now I'll recommend to you now, but I can
Right.
offline.
We can
But
we can continue to keep updating the podcast with in the show notes of things that you keep wanting to recommend if we want to do that, because I think it would be fabulous. But
but
even in, go
yeah,
ahead, please go ahead.
but the technologies right now, it's not, they're all part of a grand plan,
Totally.
and that's for the survival of humanity.
Yeah.
That is the purpose. It might sound so absurd and threatening to us, but actually the reverse is true, because how will humanity survive if the earth is going to drown because of climate change?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to, get out of our comfort zone and get out of the usual, because of these unusual things that are really threatening our very own existence.
And within a very short period of time, let's make it very tangential for people. Let's make it very something that they can feel. Within the next 20, 25 years, a lot of the jobs we know are going to disappear. They're going to be taken over by machines that are doing it much more efficiently, much better, much more with ease, much more safer than what we know. My daughter's growing up and wanted to be a brain surgeon from the moment she was born. Well, the brain surgery that she will do in the next 20 years is completely different than the brain surgery she imagined, if she even does it at all. And so it's just, what we have to do is get our heads out of the sand and think that this change that is coming won't come, or it's silly for it to come, because we have no idea. We had no idea the coronavirus 3 months ago was coming, right?
Exactly.
And we weren't prepared for it,
I
and the
think
world wasn't prepared for it.
I think a lot of the institutions will change because of
They,
technology.
they already are.
Yes. So, and with a longer life, and this is one I picked up during that conference in aging and longevity. education is packed only in the first 12, 17 years of our life,
Yeah.
usually, right? And then we don't know, a lot of us are not studying anymore.
Yeah.
But really, part of having a longer life is being well informed about nutrition and care and maintenance of the body, not just the body but also the
Yeah.
mental state, because if your mental state is not functioning well, it will deteriorate your very
Totally.
physiological
Totally.
body stuff. It all impacts each other, our system, right?
Yeah.
So we have to know that. But if we're only being so just an example, education is now being suggested for longevity is to be through a lifelong
Beautiful.
experience, as well. So how will this happen? The MOOCs, the online courses,
Yeah.
the massively open online courses,
Yeah.
or the you know so that we have that's going to change now. And people were really not so much into that yet, but now, because everybody was forced into this, it looks like the grand experiment, it people are finding out, hey, it's not so bad at all, we can
Yeah.
actually learn online. And
Yeah.
so that's just going to expedite that. And mhm.
Well, I just believe everything we know. Like I'm watching my stepchildren grow up in and go to junior high school and high school and graduate high school. And what it really feels driven by is funding for school systems, not education of kids. They basically tell kids what they're going to be tested on. They drill kids on what the tests will be. They show them the questions they're going to ask, and they have them memorize the answers, or not even. They allow them to open up the books and find the answers. Also, they can reach a certain percentile of people that pass their tests so they can get funding in a higher degree. But that isn't education. No, our kids don't even know how to critically think things through. They're so used to having everything be told to them and retold to them and retold to them, and then at questions that ask exactly what they want. You change 10 words in the question, they have no idea how to answer the question. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's not that far from oversimplified. And so, one thing that I know for sure is that everything that we know is not going to be what we know much longer, because the systems are having to change. I could talk to you forever
Yes.
because
And
you're
so can I.
right, and you're easy to talk to. You're enjoyable to talk to, and yet I want to be honorable to your time and to the people that are here. Um, I ask this question to end every podcast, and by the way, I hope we will continue conversation because it's delightful. Okay, so
Likewise.
when you look out the window at the world you see now, is this the world you always dreamed that you would give over to your children and your children's children?
Right now, especially right now more than ever, no.
Yeah. And right now more than ever is because we're having racial conflict all over the country of America. Um, a black man has been literally lynched in front of our eyes on TV by police, and so the country is in and we're in the middle of COVID-19. We're in the middle of millions of people not unemployed and economies falling. So I understand.
Yes. So, but on the other hand, where in time, you know, did we have the opportunity to communicate this way?
Yeah.
And all these technological advances as well that
Yes.
can get us out of these conundrums of society. Where in time would something that would have just been dusted under the carpet, such as that social injustice, without a mobile
Yes.
camera,
Yeah.
if that was not seen by the collective consciousness, would there be this massive, you know,
Outrage.
outrage and energy towards correcting this problem that
Yeah,
has infected, society for hundreds of years? It has,
absolutely.
because it was always swept under the rug, but
Yeah,
not because technology brought it to light. But so there's good and bad. And again, we are prolonging our aging. And now I just hope to answer question is, this is the only earth that we have.
yeah,
And if we can focus all our energies to um, save this home that we know, that we live in, and it's the only, everything is still speculative at this point, and we're still finding, but there's really nothing yet out there.
yeah,
So we have to preserve that in order for us to continue living.
totally.
And I want that for my children so much. I think most other people feel the same way.
Absolutely. So if there was one piece of advice, one thing from your heart that you might say to people that are scared to embrace the future, but the future is coming, what is it that you would say to them right now that might give them the courage to reignite momentum into the world that is coming, or the world that we want, rather than the world that is?
Wow, that's a heavy question. Vote
But okay.
on November this
Yeah.
year. No, that's serious. That's serious too. But if there's one message from my heart to everyone, is to open yourself and don't be afraid. And I know it's easier said than done, because even the most um, experienced person who's done it so many times still gets afraid when they're up in stage.
Yeah.
Or we just have to embrace fear, and we have to embrace failure, so that it's just all in the path of learning. So if we all put everything in the context of learning, that we're all going to be a better person, and not for just for ourselves, but for our community and for the rest of the world, then that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Just being open yourself, be curious, be courageous, and just look at the awesomeness and the extraordinariness of the ordinary.
Love it.
um, because really what we see, as you said earlier, a lot of people think that they discount this as ordinary, but with special lens on, the filters are gone, and the richness and the color and the dark spot over there really has something more and further out than we in with our blinders and our filters, whether it's dogma or whatever was instilled upon us by you know at a younger age, or through education even,
Yeah.
or government, or whoever, right? Is to just to open our eyes and be and ourselves to all these experiences. And the more we experience, the more we know.
Yeah. Karina, I want to thank you so much for giving your time and for being here with us. Um, how do people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you, which I'm sure they're going to want to? How would they get in touch with you?
Well, I can provide my email. It's karina@excusemag.com. So maybe you'll have the spelling out, but it's
I'll put it.
EX.
I'll put it in the show notes.
And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. What an honor and privilege it is to be here, to be
It,
interviewed by Mr. Danny. And what a great, uh, meeting this is, and our nice chat before. So thank
yes. If you can give me 1 minute, I just want to summarize and thank you for all the people that have come here all the time. I just want to give one short summarization to what I felt happened today because um, 1 week ago, I didn't even know who Karina was. Having spent some time with her today, I'm intoxicated by her. And I just want to say to you again what I always say when you take time to just listen to somebody and be with somebody and open up your heart. Um, I also want to say how proud of you I am, Karina, because there was some hesitation about coming and being on camera and filming, and you did so beautifully. And the information that you gave and the feeling that you gave was so exquisite that I really want to just thank you for trusting me enough to hold the space for you to be able to just be yourself and show up. And I think you'll find when you listen back to it that it's just such a beautiful sense of feeling that came through both of us just talking to each other and being with each other. And the information that you have is so needed for people and so important for people that I hope you will not walk but run to her website, which is exkeysmag.com. And I'll have the spelling for you in the show notes. And I hope you'll look at some of the amazing revelations that she's writing about that are happening in the world. And if you are a startup or if you are a company that is looking to try and capture some of this AI or robotic technology that's in the world, plus other things that are happening on the cutting bleeding edge of what the world has, I hope you'll reach out to her to see how she can introduce you and help you and bring you in contact with some of the people that can help make some of your dreams come true. The future is something that we've always been a little scared of, but somebody's future is our present today, and we grow used to it. And what is our future will be our present very soon. There is a new world coming. There's nothing we can do to stop it. Day can't stop night from coming, night can't stop day from happening. It's foolish to think we can. So, how do we prepare ourselves for the future that is ours? How do we learn more? How do we make ourselves more knowledgeable? How do we see some of the beautiful things that are happening? And how do we still keep the future, which has its risks, humanized? From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you again, Karina, for being here with us. I want to thank those of you who come and listen to the Mosaic podcast regularly for doing so. Please tell your friends about it. Beautiful things are happening. And if you like what you heard, please rate it and review it. Thank you for the gift of your time. Until next
you.
time, thank you so much.